The ladder was already against the house when Marcus Hale read the address on the work order and went still. Jack Morgan noticed first, the way Marcus's jaw set, the way his hand stopped moving on the clipboard. "You know this place?" "I know who lives here." Cole Turner leaned over to look at the name scrawled on the paper. Harper. It meant nothing to him. It meant everything to Marcus, who had spent 12 years learning exactly how much weight a single name could carry. Richard Harper had worn a black robe the day he looked down at a 28-year-old Marcus Hale, and handed him 12 years without raising his voice once. Marcus remembered the sound of the gavel more clearly than he remembered most of the crime that earned it. Now the house belonged to that same man, and the roof was rotted through, and somebody had to fix it. Marcus picked up his tool bag. "Storm doesn't care whose house it hits," he said. "Neither do we." Catherine Harper answered the door, already exhausted, the particular exhaustion of a woman who has spent 2 years being the only adult in a house that used to have two. "You're the crew?" She looked past Marcus to the two men behind him, then back, something flickering behind her eyes when she read the name on his work shirt. She'd looked him up the moment the repair company called. Everyone in town eventually looked up Marcus Hale. "We are. My father doesn't need to be reminded he can't fix this himself. So if you could just work quietly, and not make it a whole production." "Yes, ma'am." She shut the door a little harder than necessary. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd been sentenced by people who slammed doors softer than that. Richard Harper came out onto the porch an hour later, moving slowly, one hand gripping the rail Marcus hadn't fixed yet, and stood watching the three men work in silence, long enough that Cole finally elbowed Marcus and nodded toward him. "Mr. Hale, 12 years hadn't erased the reflex. Straighten up, hands visible, wait to be addressed." "Judge." "Not anymore, just Richard." The old man's eyes moved over him, cataloging something. "You filled out. Prison does that, I understand. Either that or it hollows a man out entirely." A pause. "Which was it for you?" "Bit of both, I'd guess." Richard almost smiled. "I remember your case. I remember most of them if I'm honest, though most men don't come back to fix my roof afterward. Wasn't planning on it being yours when I took the job. Would you have taken it anyway?" Marcus looked up at the sagging roofline, the water stains spreading across the ceiling boards like old bruises. "Storm doesn't care whose house it hits." Richard studied him a long moment. Then he nodded, once, and went back inside. And that was the whole conversation, and somehow it was enough to start something neither man could have named yet. Catherine watched from the kitchen window more than she meant to. She watched Marcus hand her father a level and ask his opinion on the pitch of the beam, waiting with real patience while Richard's arthritic fingers fumbled the tool, never once reaching to do it for him. She watched him disappear one afternoon and come back with a fence post, and later heard from Mrs. Doyle next door that her gate had mysteriously stopped sagging, and Marcus had said nothing about it to anyone. She watched, and didn't want to be moved by any of it, and was anyway. "You don't have to keep looking through the window," Marcus said one evening, catching her at it when he came to return a ladder to the shed. "I don't bite. 12 years cured me of most bad habits." "That's not funny." "Wasn't trying to be funny, trying to be honest. People usually prefer honest, once they get over the shock of it." "What were you in for?" He didn't flinch, didn't soften it, didn't reach for an excuse the way she'd braced for. "Ran with people who moved things they shouldn't have. Drugs, mostly. I wasn't a good man, Catherine. I'm not asking you to pretend otherwise." "And now?" "Now I fix roofs, and I don't lie about what came before it." She didn't know what to do with a man who refused to make himself sound better than he was. It unsettled her more than any charm could have. The rain caught them mid-repair, sudden and furious, the kind of storm the forecast hadn't promised. Marcus and Catherine ended up on the roof together with a tarp, both of them soaked through in under a minute, laughing despite themselves at the absurdity of it. A judge's daughter and an ex-convict, hauling wet plastic across broken shingles, while thunder cracked overhead. "This is insane," Catherine shouted over the wind, gripping her corner of the tarp. "Storm doesn't care whose house it hits," Marcus shouted back, and she actually laughed. Really laughed, for the first time since Marcus had met her. They sat on the porch afterward, dripping, sharing black coffee gone lukewarm, not saying much, and it was in that silence, not the joke, not the near miss with the roof, that something between them quietly shifted into something neither of them rushed to name. The trouble came from Jack's past, the way old trouble usually does. A man named Deacon Reyes showing up at the cabin one night with an offer that would have paid more in a weekend than the crew made in 2 months of honest work. Cole wavered. Marcus watched him waver, watched 12 years of hard-won discipline flicker against the oldest temptation there was, the promise of easy money for men who'd never had enough of anything. "We didn't just walk out of prison," Marcus said quietly, once Deacon's truck had pulled away. "We walked away from a life. That door doesn't open twice for free." But the next morning, he was back on the ladder, before Marcus even arrived. The neighbors found out eventually. Someone always looks things up eventually. And a small, ugly ripple moved through the street. Doors that used to nod hello, now staying shut. One man loudly wondering aloud whether people like that should be trusted around anyone's property. Catherine wanted to fight for him. She stood in the kitchen, furious, already rehearsing what she'd say to defend him. "Don't," Marcus said. "They don't know you, what you've become. Don't make it softer than it was, Catherine. I did what I did. Let people judge that honestly. And let them judge what I do now, just as honestly. That's the only kind of respect worth having." She looked at him a long moment, something in her chest aching with how little he asked of anyone, including her. Richard's decline was slow, and then, some weeks, suddenly not slow at all. On an evening in late autumn, the newly rebuilt porch finally finished. He sat beside Marcus in the fading light, a blanket over his knees he hated needing. "I sentenced a lot of men in my years on the bench," Richard said. "Most of them I never saw again. I used to wonder what happened to them. Now, I wonder less. I think I already know, watching you." "I earned that sentence, Richard. I'm not asking you to forget that. I'm not asking you to be forgotten either." The old man's voice was quiet, certain. "The court judged your past, Marcus. It never sentenced your future. That part was always going to be yours to decide." Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The porch held the silence between them, the way good solid work holds weight. Without complaint, without cracking. Sons repair. Though there were no sons, only Jack and Cole, who'd long since stopped correcting the sign, had more paying work than 3 men could comfortably handle, and 1 house a month always that nobody paid for at all. Catherine and Marcus never rushed toward anything resembling a fairy tale. There was no sudden proposal, no dramatic declaration. There was simply a slow accumulation of ordinary evenings. Dinner at the cabin, where she'd found nothing but books, tools, a small carved wooden bird, and a list, in careful handwriting, of every family he'd helped since walking out of prison. And a growing certainty, unhurried and real, that she had found someone who told her the truth, even when it cost him. Richard lived to see the crew take on its first ex-convict apprentice, a nervous 23-year-old named Danny, who reminded Marcus painfully of himself at that age. And he told Marcus once, watching the boy learn to swing a hammer properly, "You're not building houses anymore, son. You're building second chances. Don't ever let anyone tell you that's a smaller thing." Marcus didn't become a wealthy man. He didn't erase what he'd done, and never once tried to. But every month, somewhere in that town, a family stopped worrying about their roof, and 3 men who'd once used their hands to help take things apart spent the rest of their lives learning, 1 nail at a time, how to build something that would still be standing long after they were gone. If this story moved you, that's exactly what it was meant to do. Share it with someone who believes people can't change. And if you want more stories about the quiet hard work of becoming someone new, stay close. There's always another one worth telling.